We start with President Biden's chance to nominate a Supreme Court justice. Justice Stephen Breyer formally submitted his resignation letter to the president and addressed the nation today, officially announcing that he intends to retire at the end of the court's term this June. President Biden says he will name Breyer's replacement before the end of February. For more, it is my pleasure to bring in CBS News Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent and Face the Nation moderator, Margaret Brennan. Margaret, the president said he'll name his pick for the court by the end of next month. Briefly explain the timeline and, if you can, this is a big one, the politics ahead.
Major, the politics of this could be an hour-long special.
Exactly.
The timeline may be a little bit more clear. The president, as you said, wants to move on this fairly quickly by the end of the month. We know that Justice Breyer, in his resignation letter, said he expects to step down by June or July if a nominee is already confirmed. And so that's really what we're gaming out here is, can the Biden administration move as quickly as the Trump administration did in that, less than 30-day timeline they turned around to confirm Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. The other part of the politics of this is there's procedural, and then there's what's the win for Democrats. Jim Clyburn of South Carolina, the whip, has been pretty bare about this. In the New York Times, he was quoted as having said, naming a black woman to the Supreme Court and delivering on that campaign promise will be a win for the president and for Democrats going into this election year. And it was Jim Clyburn at that South Carolina debate, as we know, Major. We were there when then candidate Biden made that vow to name a black woman to the Supreme Court for the first time. It's Jim Clyburn who really urged him to do that. So there are politics there. The procedure, we know. This has to go eventually to the Senate Judiciary Committee, a committee that Joe Biden used to preside over in the Senate himself. There, Republicans can take their shots if they show up, right? Remember, Democrats in the confirmation hearings to vote Amy Coney Barrett out of committee boycotted it. But they could get their shots there. But when it goes to the full vote, it's a 50-50 Senate, and we know Mitch McConnell had changed the rules so that there's not a 60-vote threshold, it's just 50 votes. So if the president can keep his party in line, he may be able to see this through fairly swiftly.
So I want to turn your attention, because much of the world's attention is on Ukraine. The president, that is to say President Biden, spoke with his counterpart, President Zelensky, in Ukraine today. Very simple question, Mark, because I think this sometimes gets overlooked. What strategic interest does Russia have in Ukraine, and why does the West so badly want to prevent an incursion or an invasion?
So, well, it depends who you ask. If you ask the Russians, they say this is a security threat to them to have NATO forces or a potential NATO member. Ukraine's not, they're just a partner. Right. But to have that kind of exposure along their border. The UK has said that is a straw man argument. 6% of Russian territory actually touches NATO territory. They are not surrounded. But if you go down this road of just looking at what most concretely is threatening to Russia, the Russian naval fleet is in Sevastopol, a city in Crimea, which is that territory in the south of Ukraine that Russia annexed back in 2014. So they took that big bite out of Ukraine back then. And the perception now is that Vladimir Putin wants to finish the job by re-seizing this territory. And that's how Ukrainians view it, is that this is Russian imperialism to try to get all the agricultural benefits that Ukraine has to offer, the strategic ones. And the cynics, particularly in the West, would say Vladimir Putin feels threatened that as Ukraine leans more towards Europe and the West, either through NATO or through the European Union membership and other alliances, that is fundamentally a threat to the kind of authoritarian state that Vladimir Putin has been able to control for a few decades now. So that's Russia's, or the analysis, I should say, of Russian thinking here.
And it's been said by more than one shrewd observer that Russia can be an empire or a democracy. It can't be both. Margaret, I want to ask you, how do Republicans in general view the administration's approach so far? Is there any bipartisan consensus on any aspect of the response?
Major, there is bipartisan consensus. It's gotten a little complicated, particularly with that issue of Nord Stream 2, that gas pipeline from Russia to Germany. That's a real sticky part of this. But broadly, there had been bipartisan support for helping Ukraine stand up to Russia. Remember, it was the Trump administration that first gave them lethal aid, sold them lethal aid back in 2018 with those Javelin anti-tank weapons. Remember that from our impeachment hearing?
I remember it well.
Exactly. So that, there has been support for Ukraine. In terms of how they structure, for example, like the Senate sanctions that are being talked about right now, and Congress and the House is also working on something. This is where the debate is the timing of the sanctions. Do you sanction Vladimir Putin now, as many Republican critics have argued, like Tom Cotton? Do you hit him now to make sure he doesn't invade further, or do you hit him after he does it? The administration's approach is to wait because they want to keep the Western alliance together. And it makes our European allies a bit more comfortable to keep that leverage of future sanctions versus current ones. And on Nord Stream 2, that is really a flashpoint because that pipeline, which currently is halted, the argument is that if we just sanction it and let those sanctions go through now, that will really deny Vladimir Putin a financial lifeline that he frankly needs. But our German allies would like for the politics of that to be worked out over time. And I strongly suspect this will come up during that February 7th meeting President Biden has with the new German chancellor, who has given himself some wiggle room on this, right, and said that if an invasion happens, Nord Stream 2 wouldn't go ahead. So this is one of the biggest, thorniest points for Republicans.
So real quickly, Margaret, peering into your day planner for tomorrow, you're talking to the NATO Secretary General. Is there daylight between the U.S. and the European approach on this matter, and is that likely to come up in your conversation?
I'm sure he will strongly deny that, Major, the Secretary General, because this is all about signaling unity. But the reporting is, yes, there is daylight specifically on how to respond to the different kind of menu of options that we know Russia's president is considering. That it's not just 1941-style tanks rolling across the border or airstrikes on those command centers around Kyiv. Two military options we know the U.S. believes and the Ukrainians believe Russia is preparing to potentially carry out. The thing that is most divisive among European allies is how do you handle the smaller scale, or as President Biden called it, minor incursions? How do you handle sabotage? How do you handle cyber attacks? Those things that are perhaps below the threshold for some states, but may, in the United States' view, warrant action. And untangling the financial interests of Russia from some of these European countries is really complicated. There's ongoing diplomacy to try to do just that. There's a lot of Russian money in German and British bank accounts. There's a lot of exposure to banks that has to be limited because no one wants to, take a stand against Russia in a way that hurts their own economy.
No shortage of tangles or thorns. Margaret Brennan, thank you so very much. And a programming note, you can watch Face the Nation right here on CBS News. It streams at 12 p.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern every Sunday.